Hello everybody, you are on the air live with the Political Millennials. We are joined by Lewis.
Hi guys.
And myself, Justin. We are just two regular dudes, regular millennials talking about politics. Today's not super political in recent times. There's some stuff about it, but we're going to talk about the Confederacy.
We're going to talk about the Confederacy and some of the objections people have to it, some of the reasonings people have for it, and the whole hate versus heritage concept.
And we're also going to talk about Colin Kaepernick and his protests, because it did tie into a lot of when that was happening, the Confederate statues coming down. And we'll talk just spotly on that, mainly about Kaepernick and for the most part about the Confederacy and the history of them and the objections people have to say that it wasn't about slavery or it was or this or that. We're going to try to break down a lot of hopefully the facts about it and get to a solution, or maybe just maybe convince some Confederate supporters that maybe their views aren't exactly what they thought they were, or just they're just wrong.
Well, hopefully it educates some people.
Yeah.
This is episode 3 over the Confederacy, and we hope you enjoy listening to the Political Millennials. Today we're going to be talking about the Confederacy. This is a very interesting topic and one that we hold very dear. It's very interesting because especially living here in Texas, we see a lot of racism. We see a lot of Confederate flags. I know anyone listening to this can easily remember a time that they were walking down the street, or they see it on a phone case or on a flag, or who knows. They make T-shirts. What else? They make tons of things.
Bathing suits, cars. Just I know the movie.
Yeah.
With the
Dukes of
General
Hazzard?
Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, Dukes of Hazzard.
I know that was a thing, but it's still called the General Lee and it has Confederate flag. So, Lewis, I'm itching in my chair. I love this.
I know this is gonna be a fun one.
I'm excited.
Well, let's hop right into it.
So first, we should just let you know, in case you don't, maybe you're not from America, in which case, congratulations. But in which case, I will explain to you what the Confederacy was, because a lot of people may not know. They may not know the history of it. So it's good to at least inform everybody. This is from history.com, so if you don't believe this, then you don't believe anything. And in that case, watch last week's episode where we talked about fake news. But so during the American Civil War, the Confederate States of America consisted of the governments of the 11 southern states that seceded in 1860, carrying on all the affairs of a separate government and conducting a major war until defeated in the spring of 1865. I'll just leave it there because it does go into slavery there, and we're going to touch that in plenty. But I'll say the 7 states consisted of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Texas. So the war began on April 12th, 1861, firing on Fort Sumter. Everybody's heard of that. And, well, most of us. And then at that point, they were joined by Arkansas, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. So you've got 15 states total.
15 states out of okay.
And so quite a bit of states there. This is obviously before anything west of the Mississippi, except for Texas and Louisiana were in the states, because this hasn't been Louisiana Purchase took care of a lot of that.
Yeah.
So that's the Confederacy, and they're all of their glory. That's about all the glory they get in this episode. So we'll start with opinions, Lewis. When you hear Confederacy, when you think of Confederacy, what's your first thought? What do you think of? What's your opinion?
When I think of Confederacy, the first thing I think of is racism. It's always what's popped into my head. It's always how I've perceived it as learning through junior high and high school about the war that we had. It was always based on slavery, based on the black human beings that were used for free labor. That's immediately where my mind goes. I don't think of anything positive of it. I don't think of any other translation to it. Now that's just me as a Hispanic male. Justin, as yourself, what do you see the Confederacy?
Well, so I grew up with some Confederate supporters in my family. they stress that it's heritage, not hate. So I don't look at it as this person's racist.
Mhm.
But lately, the more I've seen it, the more Confederate stuff that pops up, the more anger against Confederate statues being torn down, which we'll touch on. The more and more I believe that it is somewhat, it has something to do with racism. I'll say every person I've ever met that was a Confederate supporter is, if not just a little bit, racist.
Yeah.
I've never met somebody that was pro Confederate and they were completely colorblind. Now, I hate the word, I don't see color or colorblind, but that's just the phrase I'm using in this instance. Never met a at least a little bit racist Confederate supporter or somebody that likes the Confederacy. And maybe you are a Confederate supporter, you like the Confederacy, you want to honor your heritage, and you aren't racist. In that case, I'll say that you don't always have to be proud of your heritage.
Very true, yeah. I mean, heritage there's very different types of heritage. From when you talk about culture, just being Hispanic, I know tons about Hispanic culture, and Hispanic culture has a lot of, what's the word for it? Like when you walk underneath a ladder. Superstitions.
Yeah.
It's very superstitious. It's very traditional. And I don't like that part of my culture. I'm not with the superstitions. I'm not with the devils or the angels or this or that have to do with, afterlife or passing of people. That part of my culture, I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not ashamed of it, but it's just something I don't celebrate. So in other words, what Justin was saying is, yes, you can appreciate your culture and your heritage of what you've had and what people have come before you, but you don't have to embrace every part.
You never advance in humanity by resting on your heritage. You never say, well, I came from a place, let's just throw out there cell phones, because me and Lewis work with cell phones every day. If somebody, say the inventor of the cell phone, or if Alexander Graham Bell went up and said, not necessarily the cell phone, just cell phone in general, if he went and said, well, my ancestors or my heritage isn't phone driven. My heritage doesn't use telephones, so I'm not going to invent this. Obviously, somebody would have.
Yes.
But that's that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at something small and somebody's like, well, my heritage didn't use this, I'm not going to invent it. Now you're missing out on all that stuff, and you don't advance. You don't learn, you don't advance, you don't get new technology. So it's okay to be not necessarily against your heritage, but it's okay to learn about your heritage, know what it's about, learning from it, changing yourself from it, and still being part of that heritage. You can still say, yeah, my heritage is Confederate. I'm not proud of what they stood for, but I'm proud of them for standing up for something. Mm-hmm. That's a reasonable thing,
It takes a lot to fight against your country. Unfortunately, it was something very bad and something that judged people by the color of their skin. But to cause a political revolution is exactly what it was. It's exactly what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to change the way things are in America, and that's the mindset they had too. That's my progressive kicking in, seeing the light in the darkness of it. I don't support it, but I do understand when you're so upset at your country that you want things to change. I do get that part.
So, before we dig too far, I guess we should share our burden of proof, since we've just now called the Confederates racist. We should share our burden of proof. So this is it. This is from Wikipedia, and I know everybody hates it, and anybody can edit it, but they have people that confirm these stories, and you have to source it. So I trust Wikipedia with most of stuff that I do.
Most stuff.
So I was in college for a year, and they were totally okay with you quoting Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. As long as the Wikipedia you quoted has its source listed.
Yes, yeah.
So I didn't check to see if this Wikipedia source has, or Wikipedia source listed their source, but I would be more than willing to do that if somebody wants to challenge me. I'll go up there, I'll find the source. But so from Wikipedia, by 1860, sectional disagreements between the North and South relate primarily to the maintenance or expansion of slavery in the United States. Historian Drew Gilpin Faust observed that leaders of the secession movement across the South cited slavery as the most compelling reason for Southern independence. So, God's a historian. He wasn't there, but it was, guys. It was on slavery. It was based on slavery. If you don't believe me, at the Cornerstone speech, Vice President Alexander Stevens, I cannot read today, my bad, declared that the cornerstone of the new government rested upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is natural and normal condition. This, our new government, is the first in the history of the world based upon this great physical, philosophical, and moral truth. So, to them, it was just fact. Blacks were not equal to whites. You could say, well, that was 1860. Things were different. Yeah, but at some point you gotta look and say, just because it's this way doesn't mean it has to be. And that goes back to we would never advance if we just say, well, that's just how it is. I've heard that argument, money in politics. Well, that's just how it is. Okay, so give up? No. So they had a president come in that wanted to stop the spread of slavery. Abe did not want to come in and get rid of it. He wanted to come in and stop the spread, let the South keep them, let the North keep without them, and we're all happy. But at some point he realized, look, we can't have a half slave and half free nation. So he made the decision based on morals. I need to get rid of them all. I can't let everybody have slaves. I need to just get rid of them all. So that was the point where he said that. And then the South said, no, I don't like that. So that's when, and we have a source on that, and I'll come to that later. But I mean, it's something he said straight out of his mouth. It's not hard to find.
So if we can get into talking about these specific excerpts of speeches and whatnot, I see the argument all the time, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. And I'm going to ask you, Justin, the biggest defense I hear of slavery and just the Confederate flag.
Let me guess. States' rights.
States' rights. What about states' rights? They were fighting for more things than just slavery.
It's all right to grow our own crops and have people work for free.
Yeah.
It's all right.
And okay. That's what it was.
Everybody wanted states' rights in the Civil War. The North was fighting for state rights.
To not have slavery?
Just in general.
Yeah, I mean, for anything. It goes way further than slavery.
Right, but yeah, you're right. The South wanted states' rights to keep them. So, what other rights are there? It's 1860, so you got to realize that abortion's not a thing. You got to realize that health care is not really a thing. You got to realize that a lot of the things that we cry states' rights on now aren't a thing. Gay marriage
wasn't a thing. LGBT,
women voting,
yeah, women.
That wasn't even a thing yet. So, what states' rights are you talking about? If you have a states' rights argument, please let us know.
And it's hard.
We'll talk about it. But I can't think of a thing that they would have that they were wanting states' rights over. Their crops maybe, but who grows and treats the crops?
Who would chop it down? Who would grow it? Who would tend to it? It'd be the slaves. Where do you get those crops from? Where do you make the most profit? Anyone who runs a business.
If you don't have to pay labor, you're making bukus of profit.
Exactly. That labor's going right to you and none to any of the people working for you. Air quotations around work.
So we'll go off of crops. Another argument I hear a lot is the North was industrial, and the South was farmland. And they couldn't decide, hey, which should we be? An industrial country or a farmland country? Well, right now we're both.
Yeah.
Why can't we be both then? But that actually isn't true. So in the middle of the 19th century, which is 1850, which is the middle of the 19th century, both North and South were both farmland, which is called agrarian. The North produced more food crops than the South did. The big difference is that the North paid their farmhands and the South didn't. And the South didn't want to, and the North said that they should. Back to slavery again. So, some of the agrarian crops were different, sometimes in the North, but that's because one's closer to the equator and it's hotter and you grow different crops there.
Yeah.
They don't grow hot-natured plants you don't see cactus in Canada because it's not hot. So, obviously they grew different stuff, but what's it matter?
Yeah, it's all the same physical labor, physical labor.
I can go
outside.
downtown and there's a big old industrial building, and then I can go 30 minutes out of town and there's a big farm. There's nothing wrong with having both.
As long as you have this the geography for it, you have to have the soil, you have to have, and I get it, I get the myths of, well, the South had better variables for growing, you can take that as a hand of salt, with a grain of salt. In Alabama by itself, there's an entire strip of land called the Black Belt. And why? Why is it called the Black Belt? Ever since slavery, people would say, well, it's the Black Belt because that's where the dark, rich soil was all along. That's where they wanted to farm. That's not true. That's everywhere in Alabama.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. You can grow everywhere. They call it the Black Belt.
Go to Alabama. It's tons of trees and tons of stuff. It's beautiful there. As far as crops and land and whatnot. It's a really pretty state. It's very good for growing because it's in a good spot. It's close to water.
It is, yes.
It's hot and it's cold sometimes. So you get the best of everything.
Yeah, and like I was saying, we see these myths over time of the Black Belt being named for the soil, but the only reason it's called a Black Belt is because there were black slaves working for no money. And when slavery wasn't a thing anymore, you don't just become free and run away. You have to have money for that. So these families, this culture, they sat here for decades and decades and decades. And to this point, families are still there. And, it's not easy, like they say, to get up and move. It's coming from a rich man's perspective. You can just get up and, go somewhere else.
It's accessible because you can buy it.
Exactly. But when you're not getting paid anything, you can't go anywhere.
So, what would be the next argument you think you hear that we could probably try to...
I hear a lot of people saying that everybody had slaves. It's just what you did. You had a slave, I had a slave. I hear people that said, George Washington had slaves. What's the problem?
Was he fighting for them?
I don't believe so. I've never done research into it. But at what point is it... If you've never known different, how can you tell it's wrong? That's a question.
But also, not everybody had slaves.
Not everybody did. Yeah,
but that's another argument. So some people say everybody had them, so it was okay then.
Yeah.
Well, legally, yeah. And then there's people that say, well, not even everybody had them, so why is it such a big deal? Well, okay, so why didn't they have slaves? They weren't rich enough to buy the slaves off of the block.
Simple enough.
So okay. Well, the problem with that is, even the people that didn't have the slaves wanted slaves. Why? Because if you have someone that's permanently under you, you're never going to fall to the bottom. So you're making, let's just put it in real terms, if I go to a job and I'm making $15 an hour, and I know that there's part-timers that are always going to make minimum, no matter what, I'm like, cool. I don't have to worry about being one of those people because I'm already up here.
Yeah.
They're stuck there. I'm good. Same thing. I'm not rich. I don't own slaves, but I hope they stay because that gives me a reason to know I'm not going to be the one cotton picking for 10 cents an hour or whatever it was. That's a lot of money back then. But
yeah, it goes back into that crazy theoretics and morals of, like you're saying, you don't want to be the bottom dog. You don't want to be the bottom of the barrel, with air quotations, because that's not what you are, just because you don't have money. That's how it was. If you didn't have money, then you were a nobody. You weren't important. You were, nowadays you could say trash or whatever you want to say, type of person. They made these slaves. They brought in these slaves, judged them by the color of their skin, and used it as a platform for the, I would say, average American. Because the average American wasn't making squat. Like you're saying, 10 cents an hour farming, to them it was a decent amount of money, but what could it get you? It helped.
Of course, that's a number I pulled out of my ass. I really don't know what it would have been. Of course. But we're just using that as an example of, like, let's just say today's standards 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
That's how little they would have been making cotton picking because
Mm-hmm.
they're so used to not paying them at all.
Yeah.
They're just going to say, okay, well, I'll just pay just a little bit. And I will say, I don't know the number on this, but I'm pretty sure that the North paid their slaves decent.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a living wage,
Yeah.
but it wasn't just, slap in the face wage either.
Yeah.
But so the other thing is that Abe wanted to keep the Union together.
What do you mean by the Union?
The whole thing.
Okay.
Which back then was the whole
Yeah.
country.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that the South seceded is he wanted to keep them together. They didn't, states' rights, and go back to all the other points that we've made. But he knew that if he wanted to keep the whole country together as one union,
Mm-hmm.
you had to figure out slaves or not. That's all there was to it. You're not going to have a country where half are slaves and half are free.
Yeah.
And he has that in a speech where he says it. So, believe me, just go look. And I'll tell you, it was June 16th, 1858. He says, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe just government cannot endure permanently half free and half slave. It will become all one thing or all the other." So, when you're put into that position as a president where half are slaves and half aren't, I bet you he had a sit down and said, "What is the right decision?" Well, I know he made this decision. I don't think slaves are okay. I don't think it's just to say we should just spread slavery to the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And instead he's like, you know what, let's just get rid of it. Maybe it was easier because there was less slaves than there was free states. But regardless, he could have easily been like, you know what, let's just let all the states be spread to all the other states and keep the union together that way. But he didn't. He didn't have an affiliation north or south either. He was the president of the North, but he was president when he started before they seceded. So
Yeah.
he was their president too. For a very short time, but he was still there. So,
Yeah, he's still the president.
So yeah, that's kind of the arguments you hear. I'm sure there's more. I hope to see more.
I mean, if you guys know any, throw us some, and we can explain it. If you have any questions about it, definitely.
So there's a couple of things to note. Things that happened in American history during these times. The Louisiana Purchase. Everybody knows that's when the big strip of the Central America was bought, Tornado Alley and slightly west of that. So they bought that and they didn't transfer slavery to it. They didn't want to spread slavery. The South wanted to. The North didn't. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to fight war over this. And then also you have the Missouri Compromise, which said that no slaves north of the 36.5 parallel. So no slaves north of that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the South said, no, we want more. The North said no, we said no, and then they fought over that as well. So that's part of what they were fighting over, but it all has to do with the expansion of slavery. So they were fighting, the South was strictly fighting to expand slavery, period.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe they weren't fighting to keep their own, they were fighting to get more of it, which I think is worse.
And I can see, I don't want to say I can see because I don't want to sound like I support slavery in any way, shape, or form. That'll be the last time I say it because I feel like I'm saying that a lot. Knowing how Republicans are nowadays, stereotyping, back then in a very limited knowledge government, what you cared about was money. You cared about the economy. And slavery probably would have boosted their economy very greatly because as a business, your goal is to make nothing but profit, maximize profit, and that's exactly what free labor does. If you took any CEO right now and you told them you don't have to pay any of your workers anymore at all, that's your choice. It's not going to put you in jail. It's not going to get you fined. Every single one of them would take our checks away, and every single one of them would lose a worker. But at the same time, they just want to make as much money as they can.
I would argue that some probably wouldn't. Maybe it has to do with the big social. Everything is viewable by everybody.
Oh yeah, the backlash
that would probably
be incredible.
But if you just take all of that out and say, look, nobody will know. You're gonna get free labor, and you're not gonna get backlash for it, and you're guaranteed to keep these by law. Then take it. Of course they would.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you lower the minimum wage, all the minimum wage workers would get their wages lower than minimum wage. They wouldn't stay at $7.25. They'd probably drop them down to $5, whatever minimum wage was.
And this just popped into my head with, us talking about this and every CEO wanting a chance to maximize profit. It gets scary with the technology we use nowadays. That's going to eliminate jobs, and we're sitting here saying, who wants to pay a worker? Why not have a robot do it for free?
Yeah.
Pay the robot one time, and that's a tangent.
And then when we're doing this 10 years from now, and robots are working at McDonald's for nothing.
They already have them.
And eventually,
yeah,
but eventually they're going to be as smart and as unrecognizable as a human.
That's true.
And is that going to be a moral problem? But that's another topic for another day. That's interesting to think about. But
that's the future. That popped in my head. I'm a thinker.
So just to reiterate, Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents of all time. The one that I matched closest to on the political quiz, 98%.
Justin takes that to heart very well.
Yeah, I matched 98% with a Republican. Yeah, an 1860 Republican, which is a Democrat by today's standards. But anyways, so his goal was not to get rid of slavery. He didn't ever campaign to say we're getting rid of slavery. He never said we're going to abolish it. He said that we are not going to expand it to any new land or any North states that already don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the South was mad. So the problem with it, in my mind, isn't you were fighting to keep your slavery. That was never threatened. Their slavery was never threatened. They were never said, they never came in there and said, South, you're not going to get your slaves anymore. And they're like, no, we're going to keep them, and they fought. They said they wanted to get slavery more into the North. They wanted more people to have slaves. That makes no sense to me. If you only care about your profits and your crops and your slaves, okay, fine. Just I don't care if they have it or not, as long as I do. Whatever. I still think that's a problem, but that's 2018 talking.
How scary would it be if half of our country was still divided like that?
Yeah.
Like wanted slaves or had slaves, and the other half didn't. That'd be horrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, nowadays, assuming everything would have taken the same route, technology-wise and everything, it wouldn't happen. Everybody would either move to the North, or the blacks would revolt.
Yeah.
And they'd have a way to revolt at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'd have a way to communicate with everybody everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I guess if they're slaves, they don't have access to it.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's always a way. So, one of the... I guess we can move on to aftermath of the Civil War, aftermath of the South losing their slaves. A thing came about called the Jim Crow laws. What it was pretty much, there were state and local laws that enforced racial segregation in the southern United States. So they were in the South. All the states that just lost their slavery, they wanted to enact these laws that forced segregation so that they could still not have to coincide with blacks.
Finding a legal way to do it.
Right. They were enacted by a white Democratic-dominated state legislature in the late 19th century, so you're looking at 1880s and 90s.
Was this back when the parties were flipped?
So there wasn't like a instant flip.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't like a Republicans or Democrats now.
Yeah, it was
their views gradually
shifted. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats were bad with slaves too.
Yeah.
So whatever. But even back in the 60s, the Democrats were bad with segregation. They didn't want to
either. Of course.
So those are Dixiecrats, so they hated blacks anyways. So this isn't a new thing. The Democrats have been bad with this too.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans have been bad with this. Everybody's been bad with this. So that's one of those things. But it wasn't enacted by a Democratic-dominated state legislature. In the late 19th century, after the Reconstruction period, that was after they got back together into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
These laws continued to be enforced until 1965.
1965.
That is when my dad was born.
That's what I was going to say. My parents were
born. My dad was born
in
the year the Jim Crow laws were ending.
That's so that isn't that long ago.
And even you look at it this way, even after that, it was still
Oh,
segregation.
of course, yes, yeah.
I mean, MLK had to do all this just to get rid of segregation. So, yeah, I mean, my grandpa, he remembers Vietnam, so I know he has to have remembered. Because, I mean, if my dad was born in 65, my grandpa was definitely old enough to remember when Jim Crow laws were still there. So, it's crazy. But, anyways, they mandated racial segregation in all public facilities with a separate but equal status for African Americans. So we've all seen that phrase, separate but equal. It makes no sense. If we're equal, why are we separate?
Yeah.
If I think that Lewis is not equal to me, then I would not want to be separate, together with him.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to be separated because I think I'm better than him, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. And if I walked up to you and said, I don't want to be near you, you're like, why? What did I do to you?
Yeah.
So, that's something to think about. Public education, we all know, was segregated. The principle was to extend public facilities and transportation, including segregated cars, interstate trams, and buses, which were segregated. So they succeeded with these laws. There's a chart. We're going to start talking about the statues because the statues are so weird to me. Why people love these statues so much? After everything we just said, why would you put up statues to honor these people?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me why they would do that. As far as the statues are concerned, me and Lewis have a similar opinion. Get rid of them all, put them in a museum.
Yeah, put them in a museum, man.
So, okay, the biggest thing I hear is we're changing history. Well,
that's not possible. History already happened.
You can't.
History's past.
I would say changing of history is the fact that all of these people are holding the Confederates to such a high standard.
Yeah.
Why is literally people that left this country because they didn't like it to fight against it, killing a huge amount of people. I don't know the numbers, but a huge amount of people, especially in those times. If you percentage it, it's up there with World War I and II in terms of deaths to American citizens.
Yeah.
So they left this country because they didn't like it. They fought against it. They lost. Losers don't get statues. They lost, and then they're crying about it and start enacting laws to try to segregate. And I'm not going to pretend that North didn't have segregation because it did.
Yeah.
But these Jim Crow laws came from the South, and they were enacted in the South, and they were passed by the South. So this was a thing that they were just mad. They just didn't want. So why they have to stand in a public place, I don't know. You don't see Nazis in Germany because they lost, and you don't. It's weird. I don't get it. So.
We have a chart here that we're gonna put up on screen, and
I love it. I love this chart.
This is actually an awesome chart.
This is from so I found it from Reddit user Coproller, K-O-P Roller, on Reddit is where I saw it, but he sourced it to the Southern Poverty Law Center. If it goes further than that, I didn't look into it because I saw a source and I was like, okay, that works for me. So, if I didn't do enough, it's my fault. But there's two sources there, and it's great. I like it.
It has a lot of information.
It does. So it shows you every Civil War statue that has been erected since 1861, which is when the Civil War pretty much was going on, until 2016. So it doesn't have the last year in it, but I don't know how many were enacted or erected in 16, 17. So take that with a grain of salt. But you've got red for other sites, including monuments. You've got blue for monuments on courthouse grounds, which is public. And then you've got green, which is schools. And I'm assuming that means schools named after. And schools based around a Confederate naming system, or maybe even a Confederate statue on a school.
Yeah.
1866.
Well, they have some schools. They had a Robert E. Lee school in Dallas. Not to my bad to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they have a Robert E. Lee. I remember us looking that up at work one day. Robert E. Lee High School.
I wonder how they teach Civil War there.
I have no. They probably whitewashed it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say blackwash it.
They started doing that.
So, something to take a note, the first spike in all of this is 1866. Obviously 1861, you had 4, and then 1861 to 65 was the Civil War. So the year after the Civil War ended, 1866, ironically, right after the Civil War ended, something everybody knows and hates, hopefully, was formed.
Mm-hmm.
The good old Ku Klux Klan.
One of the biggest right-wing terrorist groups.
One of the biggest
history
gums of the earth to ever.
Of course.
Ooh. Okay, so I could do an hour on KKK, really. So that year was the first spike, and then the Reconstruction period from 65 to 77. You had some 1880, 1890. You got some, and then right after 1896, right about the turn of the century, you've got the biggest spike, and right after Plessy versus Ferguson. So if you don't know, Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, it upheld state segregation laws. So they went to court saying, hey, the segregation's not right, and Plessy versus Ferguson upheld it. They said, okay, you can segregate. Mm-hmm. Segregation's fine. And then right after that, 1900, even 1898 and 9, you got quite a bit. 1900, it blows up.
That
huge
skyrockets.
Right around 1910, you've got, I can't count that. That's got to be 20, 30 statues just in 1 year.
Yeah.
For 4 years straight. It's a lot. Yeah, that's crazy. And
interestingly enough, it's when the NAACP was enacted. You know, NAACP being a organization that fights for minorities. So right around 1909, the National Association for
the Advancement of Colored People was formed. It's a civil rights organization. It was a biracial organization, mm-hmm. and it was just trying to advance justice for African Americans, trying to get them rights, trying to get them equal. Yeah. Equal but segregated is not equal. So that was when it was formed in 1909. The next 2 years are the 2 highest years ever for erection of all these Confederate monuments and honoring anything, any kind of statue or naming schools after them. Actually, there was only one school in those 2 years. Everything else was monuments and statues. So it goes down every year. 1915, the Klan resurges, the KKK resurges, and they're calling themselves the Invisible Empire. Then it goes back up a little bit. It drops. So that's the 1914 to 19. That's World War I. It was being enacted right after World War I. It drops, probably because everybody's too busy doing stuff right after a war.
Yeah.
And then 1921, the Tulsa race riots happened, and then it's kind of steady there all the way till the Great Depression, all the way through that. And then I wish we could have done this every year. 1939, there was none. Yeah. Or 1938, it was like there was none.
That's the end. They didn't have any money to put any up.
Probably. And then
into the
right after the Depression, right before World War I or World War II, you had another spike. Mm-hmm. And then right after World War II, until about 1947, so 41 and 45 was World War II. You had none for about 4 years, it looks like. And then in the 50s, it started back up. 1954 is a big one. And then the most telling one is right after that, but we'll get to that after. 1954 was Brown versus Board of Education. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. It pretty much reversed and deemed public school segregation unconstitutional. That was a big one. They got rid of school segregation, which I think is a good thing, and apparently it's not. Right after that, in 1954, the Civil Rights Movement started. And then you got another spike, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this chart and tell me that the civil rights are not enacted during times of black trying to come out of this rut, trying to get more equality, trying to get more rights, you're just crazy. You just don't look at these charts the same way as I think everybody else would. I mean, wow, it's a lot. Right after Plessy versus Ferguson for 20 years, just tons.
Looking from the outside in, it looks like any time the African American culture or any minority took a step forward, they wanted to say, "Hey, remember where you came from.
Yep.
Like, remember this. You know,
we had a whole army against you.
You were once mine." And if I had it my way, you would be again. Here's Robert E. Lee to look at you and to show you. When you have to go to court, when our cops arrest you, because at that time, the arrest of African Americans was at an all-time high. And this leads into our prison populations now and the effect that it has on it. But they were out looking. You can't make black people slaves anymore. So let's find another way to do it. Let's arrest them. Let's arrest them protesting. Let's arrest them for walking down the street. Let's arrest them for driving a car. It was anything and everything they could do to make them a slave again.
I think it's a reminder, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's you may be moving forward, you may be becoming one of us, but you're never gonna escape what you were. And it's cruel, man. It's cruel. Why do we need these things? Why? Why would you live in a country that wants to erect statues that fought in any way for and lost against your country?
Yeah.
In any way for the most embarrassing and worst part of our existence.
You're supporting a losing side.
Yeah, they're losers. They lost. And they supported in any minute way. If I haven't convinced you of that yet, you just turn it off because you're not gonna learn. In any small sliver of a way, they supported slavery. That's enough for me to say, look, you rebelled against our country when we said slavery's enough. We're done with slavery. We don't want to expand it.
Mm-hmm.
You rebelled against us. You fought for it. You fought for the expansion in any small way. And you lost, but here's some statues to honor you. What? Why? I don't get it.
You would ask yourself, take another country that has had something horrible happen to them. Let's take Germany. Let's talk about the Holocaust for a second. I don't see any statues of burning Jews or of Hitler. I don't see any erect statues.
If you sig heil in the middle of Germany, you go to jail.
Exactly. And if you do, don't get me wrong. When I've had conversations with Facebook friends, with old people from college, they immediately send me a link of statues from the Holocaust. But the thing that they miss is it's a effing museum.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Yes, it's a part of history. You can't change
museum.
It. Exactly. You can't change what has happened in the past. You can learn from it. You can learn from the real version of it. Or you can just act like it never happened. And I feel like that's what America likes to do at times. We created slavery. We didn't create it. We enforced slavery here. Hey, you're free now. All's fair. It's fine. I'm not saying do the Indian thing where you give them this portion of land, and they're taking it from them. They're taking it now. That's a whole nother story. But you don't have to give them anything. But it's not right to throw it in their faces as a reminder.
Yeah. And just put yourself in the other person's shoes for a second. You're so big on and by you, I mean the people we're talking to, the Confederate supporters, are so big on heritage, so big on this is where my blood's from, this is where my ancestors were, this is who fought for us. And then you turn around and say, why is a black guy offended by a statue?
Mm-hmm.
But that's his heritage. His heritage is being owned by your heritage. Yeah. So if you're so set on your heritage and liking these statues and saying that's who fought for my ancestors, well, that's who fought against his to slave them.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't he be offended if you like it so much? Everybody has a right to be offended. I know it goes far sometimes. The cotton thing and Hobby Lobby, whatever. Okay, I get it. It goes far. Everybody has a right to be offended. If you're offended by a statue that enslaved your ancestors, and I'm not talking back before, there was a country. We're talking 1860s. We're talking barely over 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something that I would be mad at somebody for being offended by.
No,
it's fair. If somebody enslaved my grandparents or my great-great-great-grandparents, whatever, and they kept putting statues up saying, look what we did to your great-great-grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, no, screw you, take that down. Yeah. That's offensive. It is offensive.
It is offensive, definitely.
And he's just walking his dog in the park. He doesn't want to see that in the park. I understand private property. Put it in your yard if you want. You're a scumbag, but do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's your right as an American to put it in your yard. You own it, whatever. We're talking about public. We're talking about Confederate flags at Six Flags. We're talking about Confederate flags on the courthouse in North Carolina. We're talking about Robert E. Lee in the middle of public park that literally is in the heart of a black community, where people go and just hang out and try to be people, human beings in society, and they see this every day.
Yeah, that's
you
the thing.
won't understand it if you're not in their situation.
Yeah, like you said, it's at the courthouses. Like I was talking about earlier, the arrest of African Americans is insanely higher than a white males or any other minority.
But and to be fair, the black communities are poorer, and poorer has more crime.
Of course,
I don't think it's a black thing. I think it's a money thing.
It's a systemic thing.
Yeah.
Anyone watching, if you want to watch the documentary 13th on Netflix, it is an amazing systemic documentary about black oppression or just oppression on minorities or even the poor. It focuses on the American black male, but you can relate that to many minorities in the United States. But like you were saying, they put them at the schools, they put them at the courthouses, because you go to a courthouse when you're in trouble. You have to get sentenced. You have to get judged. And what do you see when you walk in? You see Robert E. Lee telling you used to be mine. You see it at the school that they were segregated and forced to go to. These Robert E. Lee schools, they didn't name Robert E. Lee and put all the white people in it. They named it Robert E. Lee, and it was an African school. It was in the African part of the town. It was in the low economic centers of the cities.
So let me throw this out there. Just popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You remember World War II?
World War.
We enslaved Japanese Americans.
Yes.
In concentration camps. People don't think about this.
We don't talk about that a lot.
World War II is actually something we could talk about for a while too. That's fun to talk about. But regardless, what if, let's just throw this hypothetical. Let's just say a whole state. Let's just say the state of Louisiana had legal concentration camps for Japanese Americans. And the president said, no, you need to get rid of those. Free them. I know this is somewhat different, but not really. So get rid of those Japanese, send them, let them free. They're humans, whatever. And they said no. And they seceded. Said, we want to keep our Japanese slaves. And then they lost and had to give them up and were back into the country that they were originally in. Would we be celebrating them? Would we be saying, oh, yeah, they were just fighting for what they believed in? Mm-hmm. No, they were fighting to slave Japanese people.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think that, and that was 1940s, so that's a little bit more recent, but not really.
No, it's not that far
back in the 40s, it was still segregated,
yeah.
So you still have, and if somebody put up a statue of that Japanese concentration camp, the person that fought for it, if somebody put up the logo or flew a flag of their side, of the Louisiana flag back in the 40s when they were fighting for that, nobody would like it. Why would why would I want to do that? So I don't know, man. That's just something I thought, because that's a way to look at it from another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about a little bit. So the Confederate supporters, I see. We live in North Texas, so it's not bad, but it's there. So I remember a video on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy in a big Ford truck that had it decked out in like all the rail guards and the bed enforcements that had the make it strong or whatever, and it had a Confederate flag, and he circled the school.
Yeah.
I would bet every dollar in my bank account, and payday was yesterday, that he's racist. Even just a little bit. Just a smidge. He's racist.
I have a question for you as a male who has seen the heritage side of it, that people claim heritage. Is it bad for me as a minority when I see anybody with that, I automatically assume they are prejudiced?
Nope.
Not full out racist.
I do too.
Not full out hateful, but I do think they are prejudiced.
Because I've never, like I said in the beginning, never seen a Confederate supporter that wasn't even just a little bit racist. And if you're listening and you're a Confederate supporter, sorry. That's just how I see it. That's how I am. That's how I've always seen it. And that either face my opinion or change yours. That's just how I am. I'm not sorry. Never met one I wasn't.
Yeah, I'm definitely not sorry because I don't have a lot of Confederate friends or people
I have no sympathy
who believe
for
in
the
it.
Confederacy.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for
They
being
should
a
have lost.
loser.
I'm glad they lost.
All I ask of the people who do support Confederacy or claim heritage over hate, I want you to do research. And I know research is a very loose term that's thrown around. But just do a little bit of understanding of what you're actually supporting. You know, you may walk around and maybe you just don't give a fuck. Maybe you don't care. But when you go around and you talk to people about it's heritage, not hate, you look dumb. Like you look uneducated. You're supporting the uneducated, and overall you're supporting hate, which is a horrible thing. All these Christians, is what I see a bunch of Christians. They are the ones that are the easiest. It's not heritage. It's not hate. It's heritage. Really, because
like,
your religion tells you not to hate anybody.
How do I segue this? So let's just throw you. I'm just gonna take your life loose. I'm gonna put you somewhere else.
Okay.
I'm gonna put you in. Germany's easy, so I'm gonna do it. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna put you in Germany today. You send in your DNA test to learn your ancestry. You get back that you are a fifth descendant, directly blood to Hitler's second in command. You flying a swastika?
No, not at all. You would not see me back.
But your ancestor fought for what he believed in.
My ancestor can shove it up his.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Because if I got that, I'd be like, oh, crap, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I didn't know. But would I be flying a swastika? No.
Yeah.
I don't care about my heritage if my heritage is based on killing millions of Jews. Mm-hmm. I don't care about my heritage if my heritage is based off of fighting to expand slavery.
Man,
I don't care about it. Screw the heritage.
People get embarrassed when their cousin steals from Walmart and gets posted on Facebook, but you're not embarrassed that your ancestor, your heritage is taking an entire race and making them
slavery is the worst thing that has ever happened to this country.
In the world.
We had a secession of an entire half of the country that wanted to expand it. And we fought back as a country and said, no, it's time to end this. And beat them. And then still said, you know what, let's just let them have their statues. It makes sense. If I'm completely missing it, please tell me. Somebody tell me if I'm missing this. Because I don't get it. I don't get it.
I can understand that as a bargaining tool, hey, we're done with slavery. You can put these statues wherever you want. I'm sure it wasn't like that because it was at different dates and times.
Yeah.
But I can
they passed the Jim Crow laws.
Yes, yeah, they did.
Had to pass, so maybe there was some kind of push and tug there.
Those Jim Crow laws lasted years. There was
Almost
a lot of bargaining and, like you said, debating. So I'm sure once they ended the timetables for it were okay. Give me my statues. I'll give you your freedom.
Yeah,
horrible thing to say.
We'll transition a little bit with
statues to.
I don't know how to start it. I'll just say Colin Kaepernick. I will disclose my opinion on him. I think he is an American hero. Mm-hmm. I think he done exactly what every American should do in the situation that they are faced with that he was in. So as Americans, we are supposed to stand up for what we believe in. We're supposed. Every parent would tell their kid, if you believe something, stand up for it. If you believe something is wrong, fix it. If you believe that this kid is getting bullied and you can help him stop getting bullied. Mm-hmm. So a guy comes in and he uses that American right to protest peacefully and completely away from everybody. If you don't like it, go fix dinner and come back when the game starts. Uh-huh. If you don't like it, turn it off. I don't care if you stop watching the NFL. The NFL's fine without you.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, I'll throw a little subjection in there. Everybody I saw on Facebook say they're going to stop watching the NFL are talking about the games tomorrow more than I am.
Yeah, they're still watching.
And by the way, the Jags will win. This will go up after the game, so I'll look like a genius.
Well, I mean, to throw in with you too, you know, Cap, like you said, he did peaceful protest, and in fact, this guy, like, I did not know Cap was as deep as he is. He got it was either a letter or an email from a former army sergeant.
He was sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm. That's how he protested originally. He
got. I'll let you tell it.
No, you're good, man.
So he got I believe it was a letter.
Yes.
I think it ended up being a conversation one-on-one from I believe it was a retired military general or some kind of designated military service member, whether retired or active. I believe it was retired. Telling Colin, kneel, don't sit, kneel.
He said, whenever one of our brothers have fallen, to show respect, we kneel. You know, we kneel for them. We kneel for them.
You watch a military service, they will kneel for their fallen.
Growing up in sports, you know, when somebody went down with an injury, they told the entire team to take a knee out of respect. I don't understand how that got flipped into. I do understand. Yeah. I should say. I do understand.
So we'll get into the meat and bones. He knelt for the national anthem. Everybody flipped their shit. Why? Because they think it's disrespectful to the flag. And we can do a whole episode on brainwashing.
The flag doesn't have fucking feelings.
We can do a whole episode on brainwashing and why everybody thinks it's mandatory to stand for the flag. Why everybody thinks it's mandatory to XYZ for the flag.
Because things have always been that way, Justin.
That's how it's been. So he said, you know what? I think, whether he's right or wrong, there's statistics to say he's right. I think that blacks are getting killed by cops too much. One is too many. Wrongly. I think they're getting killed by cops too much, and I want to do something with my voice that I have earned. No, America did not give him those millions. He earned them by playing damn good football, and they have stats to prove that he is still a good football player.
He was at a Super Bowl. You don't get to a Super Bowl.
He made a Super Bowl, and his last year that he played, he had like 17 touchdowns and 4 picks. That's, I mean...
Unless you're Blake Bortles, you don't get to a Super Bowl.
Right.
I don't know how that's happening.
He's going to make it. But so, okay. He says, I have a voice. Everybody will... Not everybody, but a lot of people will listen to me. I want to use it to better this country. That's all I care. Who cares how he does it? He's not hurting anybody. He's hurting your feelings, but I thought we were the snowflakes.
Well, this ties into our episode from last week. When you take what Colin was kneeling for, what he was quote-unquote standing for, he was fighting against racial injustice against minorities and police brutality. Let the news get a hold of that, and all of a sudden you're un-American. You're not standing for the flag. You hate the troops. You hate America. You don't support us. You know, and like we were talking about fake news, they have that thing called the spin. Anybody that doesn't know about the Colin Kaepernick situation, which I've dealt with this personally, my cousin Adrian, if you're watching, I love you, but I'm going to call you out. We were talking about this one night. It was when Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fought, actually. And I asked her, or she asked me how I felt about him kneeling for the flag. I said, it's completely fine. He has the way to protest how he wants to. He's fine. He's not hurting anybody. And she says, why do you feel like supporting America isn't good? I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Where's that coming from? Well, I've seen what he's kneeling for, and he doesn't support the troops. Adrian, how much have you actually listened to it? Where did you get your news from? Well, I watch CNN and I watch Fox. Listen. Well, if you listen to Colin Kaepernick, take it straight from the horse's mouth. He's standing for racial injustice. The only way to get attention was to go against the grain.
And I'll throw this in there. You may or may not agree that there is racial injustice in America. You don't have to agree. All you have to know is that he saw a problem that he thought was there, and he wanted to fix it the American way by protesting.
By protesting.
Who cares?
But
if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to him.
What does protesting ever solve, Justin? That's a retaliation I hear.
Yeah, what did Martin Luther King ever do?
What did the Boston Tea Party do?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
okay, so
we literally would not have been America without a protest.
And that wasn't even peaceful.
Exactly.
Martin Luther King was.
Martin Luther King.
Which is why I think he's the greatest American ever lived. But and this is coming a week removed from Martin Luther King Day, so happy Martin Luther King Day. A little bit late. We could be the last ones to tell you, and hopefully we'll be the first ones next year because. A great man. Okay. So.
I will never forget Martin Luther King Day because I busted my head open in 7th grade on it. I will never forget as long as I live.
I won't forget it because Martin Luther King's a great man. So.
wait, about you. Take it away. Take away my victory or something.
So, he stood for something he believed in, and that's what America is about. Okay, so I've told people, and I said I was going to call somebody out, so I'm going to. My Aunt Pam texted me. She texted me and asked me what I thought, and I said I hope every player. This was after Trump called them sons of bitches.
Yeah, sons of bitches.
This is after that. So she texted me and I said I hope every player kneels, all 500 and however many. There's actually more than that, but
yeah,
I hope they'll kneel. And she was kind of questioning, why would he want to disrespect the country that gave him millions? And I already debunked that one, that he didn't. He earned it. But I said because. And this was after Trump. I was totally cool with him kneeling before. I don't care if everybody kneeled, whatever. But when Trump came out and said, fire those sons of bitches, I'm like, wait, you're not allowed to say that. Yeah. You're the government. Yeah. That's his First Amendment right. So that's when I was like, every son's a bitch should kneel because now you have an actual First Amendment violation.
That's not a democracy.
And then it turned into the NFL versus Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I feel like everybody in the NFL should have been like, hey, we should kneel with them. And I understand there's some, like Villanueva from the Steelers.
Yes, yeah.
I understand. You know what? I totally commend him for doing what he did. Standing up and going to the end of the tunnel while the team is in the locker room. Kudos to you, my friend. You were doing it right. You're doing America right. You did what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. It's a First Amendment right. You have every
you know
single
what?
reason.
If you want to stand on your head with your feet in the air while the national anthem is playing, go for it, man. Go for it. Have fun. I don't care. It's a generation thing. Mm-hmm. The younger people, the millennials, shout out to us, have not really cared, and then the older group does because they were taught and they were more disciplined as kids to respect their country. But I don't see how we're disrespecting the country by using exactly what it's given us to speak out against something that we didn't feel right. If we were disrespecting the country, we would never protest.
Exactly.
If we
stick with the status quo.
This morning, and I probably should have went, but I didn't. Went to the Women's March in this town, our lovely town, not so lovely town. But if he was wanting to disrespect the country, he'd say, "Screw protests. What are those for?" That's disrespecting the country. This country gave us protests. Mm-hmm. This country gave us that right.
It gave us the right to.
So why is he disrespecting it by using it? So Trevor Noah, when he did his interview with Tommy Lauren, said, "What is the right way? If this isn't right, what's the right way?" She couldn't answer it. Yeah. So I call on anybody here that disagrees with Colin Kaepernick. What should he have done to get the word out? And you can say, put it on Facebook. Screw off of Facebook. Yeah. Facebook is only the people that follow him. Mm-hmm. And if he says, hey, there's racial injustice on Facebook, that's not going to make news. Yeah. That's not going to do anything. There's players doing that every day. You don't hear about it. You could say, oh, well, he should buy an ad on news or something. That's not going to do anything either. You have to piss some people off. Mm-hmm. You've got to get under somebody's skin. You've got to get somebody mad enough to talk about it in order to make change. Martin Luther King didn't say, sitting in on that restaurant bar and not letting them serve anybody and just sit there. That's going to piss too many people off. I don't want to do that. Yeah. But that's why he did it. Mm-hmm. That's the point.
Yeah. Rosa Parks. Get up out of your seat. Go to the back of the bus.
You think people are like, she's just sitting there to have fun. No. She pissed somebody off because she took that white man's seat. Yeah. That was the point. And it worked.
You have to ruffle some feathers to get some change. I mean, it's...
If you don't like that, you have to ruffle some feathers, then you're the snowflake, not us. Mm-hmm. We're not the ones offended by Colin Kaepernick. Y'all are.
Another thing is, if people have to act out to get things changed, what does that say about our country? That we don't listen, and we would rather I always say this. Let me back up. I always say that America focuses on treatment versus preventative. So with this little, I don't even know what to call it, a simile, you could say that America does not pay attention to its people until the absolute worst. They don't want to pay attention. They don't want to listen to them until we have to act out, smash buildings, or light shit on fire. I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it, but that's what people do.
And I'll say this: when it did get out,
mm-hmm.
our government didn't do anything to support it.
No, not at all.
If I were president and somebody came out and did something that offended me, I would say, you know what? Let's listen to them.
Yeah, let's see what points you have, because you feel strongly enough to risk your safety.
Look, he lost his job over this.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, he turned down the Niners contract. I'm not buying it, all right? He
was blackballed.
And he's suing the NFL. I haven't heard lately about it, probably because the season's going on and they don't want to distract people. But so he thinks that they colluded to not hire him because of this. I 100% believe that's true. I 100% believe that, who was it that went to back up Eli Manning? I don't remember his name.
Webb?
Yeah, so he got hired to back up Eli Manning and not Kaepernick. And you're never going to convince any football mind that knows what they're talking about, or at least pays attention to it without the name. Take Colin Kaepernick's name off of it and look at the stat line. You're not going to tell me that Webb was a better option.
You're not even going to tell me he's going to be a second string. He's good enough to be a first string starter for certain
64 first or second string quarterbacks. He's top 64.
Oh, I would say he's top 32.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
I could eliminate a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, even look at this. Deshaun Watson went down. Who's perfectly fit for that role? Mm-hmm. Tom Savage?
I would say the more perfect fit was when Marcus Mariota went down for a little while.
Yeah.
He is the same athletic build, the same style, the same run option as Mariota, and what their offense is.
They rolled with whoever their backup is.
I don't know his name.
So, there's and he's burned his bridge by suing them, but I think it was burned a long time ago. And so, to me, the reason I say he's an American hero, he risked his job to speak out against something that he felt strongly about in a peaceful way, and now he's never going to be employed by the NFL again. Well, who else did that? Martin Luther King. He went to jail for it.
Yeah.
He took a bullet for it. So,
I think it'll be a decade, maybe a decade, 2 decades, until the smarter Americans look back and say, dang, this guy risked it all for minorities, for the poor, for where he came from. They want to talk about the arguing point against it. They're always saying, man, he's just a rich wine bag, man. He's a baby. He's entitled, he's spoiled, he has millions of dollars. How are you oppressed?
So here's the okay, first off, I'll address that right off the top. Kaepernick may not be oppressed, but he's speaking up for the oppressed. He's not talking about him. He's talking about, he never got shot by a cop. He's talking about the ones that do.
Yeah.
He's talking about the ones that if Joe Schmo over living in the middle of nowhere gets, his black son gets shot by a cop unjustly, what's he gonna do? He's gonna be like, oh, now I'm sad. I can't do anything about it because I don't have a voice. So Colin Kaepernick's like, look, I'll give you that voice.
Yeah.
Why did Donald Trump win? He gave the people that didn't have a voice a voice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole thing. So this is what he's doing. He's not talking about himself. He's not the oppressed.
No,
he may be. He may be now, especially, but he wasn't talking about himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I know one argument that's going to come up on what should he do. Well, you're a millionaire, raise money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on his website, and you can call it bias if you want. I don't care. It's his website. He has his $1 million pledge. He's going to donate $1 million to different organizations, 40 plus. You can go. It's Kaepernick, and it's spelled weird. It's KAEPERNICK 7.com /$1 million pledge. $1 million pledge with hyphens in between the words. So you can go here. I'm sure you can go to Kaepernick7.com and find it pretty easily. Yeah, it looks like you can. It just says about and $1 million pressure next to it. So, he only has 100,000 to go. So I'm assuming that means he's
that
raised
is awesome.
without a job.
Without a job.
He's raised $900,000. He's asked some friends. Steph Curry's right here. He's donated $10K. Kaepernick himself's donating $10K. $20K got donated to United Players in San Francisco.
Wow.
He's donated $930,000. You can go here, and Steph Curry, you can click, and I might click, I want to scroll down further to see which organization he's donating to. Kaepernick, or Steph Curry is under Kaepernick's $1 million pledge. It says stay tuned tomorrow for his next round of donations, so more's coming.
Oh, okay, so we'll have to check on that.
Jesse Williams donated. Kevin Durant donated $10,000. The cupcake. You can go all the way to the bottom and look at his past donations all the way from October 16 to June 17.
It's interesting that you see a lot of the athletes taking stands for this stuff. People want to, like we were talking about, you're not oppressed. You're not oppressed. They used to be. They weren't millionaires their entire lives. They come from the poor schools. They come from this and that. Not talking about Colin Kaepernick specifically because I believe he was adopted into a pretty, well-off family. But regardless, you don't have to be poor. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be black. You don't have to be white to fight for the other's rights. Like you said earlier, that perfect quote by Abe Lincoln. If a house divided doesn't stand. If we're never fighting for each other, then what are we?
So
we're not American.
That was a good point, but I want to get into what he's donating.
Mm-hmm.
This is June of 2017, and he's donated $25, and $25, and $25. So $100,000 in that month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll read the 4 things, and I'll short point on some stuff that he donated for. Dream, which is formerly RBI Harlem in New York, $25,000. And it breaks it up every donation and their money amount, but it's pretty much for baseball and softball supplies, balls, bats, gloves, uniforms, college trips, an entire grade of middle school students, food and overnight lodging, bus expense, laptops for the 9th grade class. Kids who can't afford now are able to compete more favorably on homework and SAT prep. So this is going to help them get into college, hopefully. There's a link to their website. Coalition for the Homeless in New York, $25,000 is going to help Grand Central Food Program delivering food for those in need 365 days a year. Crisis Intervention for 9,000 homeless men, women, and children, which also provides substance abuse, mental health, domestic violence, counseling, and job training. Emergency grants for food, baby formula, work uniform, school supplies, medication, and transportation. Bridge Building provides safe and affordable 1- and 2-bedroom apartments that allow formerly homeless mothers to create a safe, nurturing environment for their kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bound for Success, critical after-school and summer day camp programs to homeless kids who otherwise was falling behind. Eviction Prevention Program, 800 million families a year on the brink of homelessness, grants of $1K per family that the ability to plan and pay rent moving forward.
Wow. This guy's an all-around activist.
That is an amazing thing.
That's some achievement.
That's Coalition for the Homeless. If I had millions, I'd be donating every dollar to them. That's awesome.
Of course.
War on Children, New York. 3 town hall meetings, 3 caucus trips, and the War on Children rally, which includes facility fees, meals, rental vans, trainers, videographers, graphic design, printing materials, and apparel. I'm assuming that's for getting them to vote.
Yeah. Because
it says town hall meeting and caucus trips. And then United We Dream, which I love. I've read up a lot of their stuff. I see them a lot. Inequities and obstacles faced by immigrant youth, 100,000 members. Current focus is to organize and work for immigrant children to keep DACA enforced. $10K for upcoming travel, $10K for a series of upcoming local gatherings, and $5,000 for text service for the network of over 100,000 members. So that is 1 month of what Kaepernick has helped donate to, and not just his money, but other people that are pitching in from other sports and other professions, just everywhere. I'm assuming it's open for everybody. You can go to May, you can go to April, you can go to March. Guys, this guy, he's putting his money where his mouth is. You can be mad at him for what he did. You cannot be mad at him for the man he's being today. 100% respect due to this man.
Yes.
That is why I defended my point successfully in saying he's an American hero.
Mm-hmm. I agree. You know, we're gonna look at him like we did Cassius Clay. You know, we're gonna look at him and
when he was ridiculed at the time.
Exactly. You know, he was made fun of converting to Islam and becoming Muhammad Ali as we know him today for standing for peace.
Mm-hmm.
How, if anybody, you can be made fun of something, you get made fun of for being nonviolent. You know, I mean, I understand he's a boxer and it's kind of ironic, but it's a sport. You know, he's not trying to kill people out there. He's just trying to knock them down. He
almost does.
Yeah.
That's just because he was too good.
Yeah, he was too good. But, you know, he's one of my all-time favorite political activist athletes, I should say. Colin Kaepernick being right underneath him because I think he made a perfect move. He may have not done all this. Some will say he hasn't done it 100% by himself, and I'll slightly agree with you. But the thing is, he got conversations starting.
It wouldn't have started without him.
And if you're brave enough to lose your job and lose the ability to ever do what you love again, all for the people you love.
I'll go back to the kneeling for a second. Did you want to finish your point?
No, it's fine.
So, I'll go back. This is part of my down. If you know me personally, you know I'm a die-hard Cowboy fan for the longest time. Mainly because Tony Romo is my favorite player, and you can give me hate in the comments, and I'll fully embrace it because I got plenty and I can take it. But so I was a die-hard Tony Romo fan, and he left, and I was like, oh man, I don't know how to feel because I'm not watching my favorite player. Mm-hmm. And the tipping point, the straw that broke the camel's back, was when Jerry Jones came out and said that he is not going to allow his players to kneel for the anthem. And if anybody does, they're benched and won't play. At that moment, I tweeted directly at Dak, Zeke, Witten, Zach Martin, Dez, and Sean Lee. And I said, you motherfuckers need to kneel. Mm-hmm. Kneel, please. Do it. Prove him wrong. He won't do it. If all six of you kneel, he won't bench you.
He won't bench him.
He is only speaking to his Texas base that knows is super right wing and hates this anthem stuff. He knows it. He kneeled before the anthem to show his support so that his liberal fans will be like, okay, that's enough. And then once that ended and he stopped the kneeling, everybody was, man, I wish they would. I was calling on it. I was begging. If they would have done it, it would have been the best thing ever because I know he wouldn't have benched Dak and Zeke in one game, especially when Romo was gone. Yeah. So, well, actually, that was when Romo was there, wasn't it?
Well, with your point with Jerry, you know, making everyone stand for the national anthem, he actually got in a little trouble for that. Apparently, you know, with the whole let me start over. The talking point of the NFL this season has been ratings. Ever since last year, the ratings
going down.
It was like a 10% maybe decrease, but it was because it was a political year. That's understandable. Everybody was interested in politics, especially
by this, we're talking about not the season that's happening, the 17-18 season. We're talking about 16-17.
16-17.
Which is when this is the biggest.
Yes.
Obviously, it carried over to this year a little bit, but we're talking about last year.
Yeah, and you know, he was infuriated that the NFL wasn't being watched as much. You know, 10% is a lot to a business. If you decrease 1 year in 10%, that's a failure of a year for a business. Jerry's a smart businessman, and he, like I said, he wants the most profit you can get. The Cowboys, they have exclusive deals with merchandise. You know, they get paid a little bit higher than every other NFL team. So here comes the way the NFL makes money is the commercial slots, the advertisements they get, the Budweisers, the Papa John's, the Pizza Huts, the Domino's. Well, this goes hand in hand with what happened to Papa John's earlier this year when their CEO said, man, all this American flag stuff is killing the ratings and people aren't eating my pizza anymore. Well, apparently Jerry Jones had stock in Papa John's. And by that way, he was giving either it was free advertisement or it was like a breach of contract with the NFL.
Yeah.
So he was in it strictly for
conflict of interest.
Exactly, yeah. Conflict of interest. He was using the national anthem not for his beliefs but for his money.
And another thing that I found hilarious, and not hilarious in a funny way, but hilarious in a sad way, when they did the kneel, Jerry Jones was like chasing the cameraman and saying, hey, come over here. Yeah. So it was all publicity.
It's a publicity.
It's Jerry Jones. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes him, I would hope. So it's one of those things, and that was honestly a tipping point for me. I was like, I can't support this team He don't care. He doesn't care if his players are treated equally. He just wants the money.
As long as his players are good, he doesn't care if they get shot by a cop. You know, let's go sign another. Let's go sign another guy.
So what would happen if Dak got shot by a cop? That whole team would flip.
Yeah.
But if third string linebacker nobody knows of, they'd issue a statement and say it's sad to see him go and continue on without their business. That's all there is to it. And that's how I feel, and that's just
yeah.
That's why I don't like him. And I can't support him.
I'm in that same boat. It wasn't so much, you know, since I've been born, the Dallas Cowboys were something I was born into. I didn't know anything else, and I was glad to support them through the 20 years.
And if Romo comes back, I will.
Through all the ups and downs, the roller coasters of heartbreaks they had for me. You know, I did support him, but when Jerry made the point to me that he cared more about his money versus the people that are making him the money, that's what set me off. And since, I don't even know the data, since that day that Jerry did that fake kneel, then stood back up and, you know, they locked arms, I have not watched a football game. I haven't watched a Cowboy football game. I don't watch NFL games.
But I rooted against him when I did it.
Yeah. I haven't watched any playoff games. I know the Jags are winning because it's everywhere.
We're gonna watch the Jags.
I'm gonna hopefully I'm gonna keep up with the score. I'm still not gonna watch the game, but
I might like him once.
Yeah.
So this has kind of gone away from the Confederacy talk, but it is related because it's a racial issue, and that's part of what the Confederacy was, big on creating, I guess you could say. Is there anything related to this you want to touch on? You want to talk about? I know we've covered a lot. We're going over time. That's okay. We're off the clock. We can talk over time.
Overtime.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to throw in?
Colin Kaepernick, if you're listening,
we love you, bro.
Dude, send us some. I'll say some tickets, but don't play anymore. Sorry. Send us a letter. Write to us, or we'll write to you. I'm gonna tag you on Twitter whenever we get this up and tell you to listen.
Dude,
if you do, I appreciate it.
You are the greatest NFL player of the decade.
We'd love to have you on a podcast.
In terms of just a person, you're awesome. Yeah. But he's not gonna hear this. So.
Definitely not.
That's okay. But if you disagree with us at this point, we're not convincing you. There's no convincing.
Come on. If you disagree with us, and if you have your proof to back up what we are not saying, apparently, we would love to do a Confederacy 2.0 with you on it, whoever you are. If we have 10 people that comment, if we have one person,
we'll take 10 minutes apiece.
Go ahead and bring it on, because it's something you can't argue. Republicans, Donald Trump, everybody uses it so hard. Conservatives, they say facts don't care about your feelings. Well, facts don't give a damn about your heritage.
Yep.
And it's a sad truth.
And neither should you, my friend. Neither should you. If your heritage is into enslaving people because of the color of their skin, then you shouldn't be proud of it. I'm sorry. If you are still, then that's just on you.
There's something psychologically wrong. At the end of the day, it's fake. A person, me and Justin are two different colors of skin. We look completely different. You shed every piece of skin away from us,
he's not.
And we look the exact same. All of us are made the exact same way, down to a molecular level. How stupid must you be to think anybody else is different from you? That's my ending point. I don't agree with that.
No, I totally agree. If you think that you are better than somebody because of their color, because of their background, because of anything at all, you are not better than anybody else here. We are all there. Let's just say there's 367 million, I believe, in America. Mm-hmm. You are one of 367 million. He's one of 367 million. You are not 1.5 and he's a half. You are one, he is one. Period. He gets just as much respect out of our government and out of other people than you. And that's all there is to it. You are not more than him. You're not less than him. If he says he's more than you because he's black and you're white, there's a problem there too, and we'll talk about it. We will speak about that too.
It's not just a white versus black or a black versus white. If there's an injustice, we're going to point it out.
You're better than him because you're white and he's black, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. Nobody's better than anybody. That's all there is to it. Now, if you're a child rapist and one of you's not, then okay, we can have that argument. Does he deserve to die? We can have that argument. But in terms of just regular people in society, you are not better than him because you are white. Period. If you think that, I'm sorry. And if you think that he is doing something that you don't agree with, like the way he wears his clothes, or the way he talks, or the way he walks, or the way he treats his family, that's not your problem. That's not your business. That's what America's about. If you don't like it, come at me.
Yes.
Cash me outside.
Happy Women's Empowerment Day.
Yeah.
Like Justin was saying, I went to the march this morning, and I didn't meet anyone, but I did talk to a lady that was running for like district. I don't even know, honestly.
Our district?
It was 30. I only met her for like 30 seconds. She was a really nice lady. I can't say I support her because I don't know any of her views or anything, but I do appreciate all of the women that I see in our community that took this upon themselves and made a march and got out in front of people. And it's a different thing to believe, but it's a completely different thing to actually go out there and do. And I love that they set it up. It's very powerful. I can't wait till next year.
How dare they offend the military by doing that march?
I'm gonna take off work next year because unfortunately I had to go to work, but it was a new thing for me. That was my first, I guess, being actually there protesting. It was a good feeling knowing there were a lot of people. And
I'll just throw this in real short. When net neutrality happened, they did do Verizon protests at the corporate stores, and our corporate store did not have one.
Yeah, our corporate store is too small.
So we don't live in a city that really warrants a lot of protests. So the most we see are people on the corner of the two popular roads talking about Jesus and stuff, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We don't see any kind of anti-government or anti-anything kind of protests going on.
One day I did see the anonymous guys. There were like 10 of them with anonymous masks, and they were holding up signs. I forget what it said, something about Trump, but they were standing at the corner of the Dollar Tree in Kansas.
That's cool. Yeah, we need to look into that now. Yeah. But anyways, I think that's about it, really. Thank you for sticking in this long. This is a long episode.
Yeah, it's probably our longest one. It is the longest one we've ever had.
It was something I was excited to talk about. I know Lewis said he was excited. It's something I could keep going on. I can talk to anybody about it. If you want to challenge me, please do. I learned a lot on my 2 days off this week learning about all this, watching some videos. We will throw a soundbite of a YouTube video that I like to listen to, or I did listen to, and it did give me a lot of the points. We'll give him credit. And thank you.
Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned. Next week we have some important information for you. We have a really good episode.
Do you want to tell them, or do you want to make it a secret?
Yeah, let's make it a secret. Tune in. And
there was one hint I gave in the episode.
Yeah,
you mentioned it, and I said good segue.
Yeah, good segue.
But we didn't go to the segue. So if you can catch it, good job.
Yeah, if you can catch it and you know what it's about, comment on the video, and we'll let you know if you're right or not.
And if you are, you might get something special.
Sweet. Yeah, maybe we'll make you a T-shirt. I still got to get those T-shirts made. Can we get Political Millennials? We're gonna have our logo. Never know what this can blossom into. We're two guys with a podcast. That's how it's starting out. We're going to see where it goes.
It's our third one. But if you are interested in listening more often, every Monday, hopefully Monday, sometimes Tuesday, we will have these out. Every episode may be different. We didn't cover any news this week. Not a whole bunch to cover, but we'll try to cover news, especially on episodes that we don't have a whole hour to talk on. But this one, we had too much. So
one last note is when I was at that women's march, my cousin, I don't talk to her very much, but she actually, heard about our podcast. I don't have her on, I do have her on Facebook, but I don't see her stuff, and you only see the stuff of people you interact with.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was very, very surprised that, word got out about it. Made me feel good, I let Justin know, made us feel good, so definitely glad that people are listening. We appreciate it.
Back on our first episode, we did put our personal Twitters out there, and our Twitter for the show is @thepodcastpm. Mm-hmm. We both have it, so if you want to comment to us on Twitter, we would love to hear from you.
Probably be the easiest way.
Yeah. Podcast. But hopefully we'll remember to link our personal ones in there in the description as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've heard from a couple people, not last week, but from the first episode.
Yeah.
But if you do want to hear us every week on Mondays, you can subscribe on YouTube. Hopefully, if we get a big enough following, we'll try iTunes or SoundCloud, something a little bit more accessible. We don't have to have your screen on to listen. So yeah, that's about it for this week. Appreciate you listening.
Thank you guys.